Just refresh your screen.
Right, sir? Should we start?
Yeah, we could start.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Mission Energy Foundation, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the two-day virtual conference and awards on reducing net heat rate for thermal power plants. I'm your host for today. My name is Anisha Nayyar Thawan. Electricity demand many factories shut down. Domestic consumption, which generally, compares with lower tariffs, thankfully went up. The power sector has seen a V-shaped recovery, with India's electricity demand recording a new high of 189.6 gigawatts by end January. After a slew of reforms, the electricity demand is expected to grow at 6 to 7% this financial year. And more of this incremental growth is coming from renewable power. But this doesn't mean that coal-fired plants will disappear. They will continue to be an important part of India's energy mix for the future. But in the face of stiff competition from renewables, coal plants need to be more efficient. The assessment of productivity and performance of a thermal power plant to improve the heat rate involve large capital investments like introduction of variable frequency drives, intelligent soot blowing systems, automated drains, and more. Now, these investments combined with operation and maintenance improvements like cycle optimization, arresting leakages, and operating the equipment at full performance are typically applied today by power generating plants. Now, the two-day virtual conference and awards on reducing net heat rate for thermal power plants provides a platform to bring together major stakeholders and decision makers and to introduce the thermal power industry to the latest technologies in operating heat rate of plants and maintaining global benchmarks. A few words about the organizers of the event. Mission Energy Foundation is a private, persistent, not-for-profit organization which has delivered successful platforms of knowledge dissemination on various subjects like gasification, waste to energy, fly ash utilization, biomass, solar and wind energy over the last decade. Mission Energy Foundation is dedicated to educate and spread technology awareness through ongoing contacts and discussions with the public and industry concerning the future of India's growing energy sector. We would like to thank our sponsor for supporting us this year to bring Reducing Net Heat Rate Conference to you. A big thank you to our associate sponsor, Promicon. I would now request Mr. Khatri to please open the conference and welcome all speakers to this August gathering.
Thank you, Anisha, for this opportunity to open these sessions and welcome everybody. I once again thank all the participants and everybody who's present today for this two-day interesting subject where we're discussing about how do we reduce the net heat rate of the thermal power plants. As Anisha correctly mentioned, this is a very important factor which determines the efficiency of a thermal power plant, and it's a very interesting subject as well. I also thank Dr. Ashok Kumar, respected Director General from BEE, to join us today. And I'm thankful that he is going to share his insights with us today. Going forward, I welcome all the participants for this program, and I hope this is a journey of learning and excitement on this platform. Just giving you a brief of the platform a little. We are not holding the programs in other virtual formats, but holding this at an interesting platform called AirMeet.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Khatri. I would request you to turn on your video, please.
Yeah, my camera, I'm not seeing it, so let it go
Sure.
as it's going. So I was just trying to say that at this platform, what you have interestingly is the tables which you saw in the morning. So these tables give an opportunity to everyone to virtually interact with participants each other. Participants can take the chairs, and a table can take up to 8 people to do video conferencing with each other. So this is an opportunity which you can capture to see yourself, meet people, and greet people virtually. That is one. Second, I will also take you through a video which talks about an app, a mobile app of Mission Energy Foundation, which will help you to connect to the other power plants on your fingertips. I just take 2 minutes to share this video, and I urge all the participants to take Mission Energy Foundation on your mobile, and we are there at your helping hands, in your hands. Anisha, with your permission, can I just play that video?
Yes, Katuji, please go ahead.
Thanks, Anisha, for this, and I will also share the participants the links to download the app via iOS and the Android versions in the group chat shortly. I once again thank Dr. Ashok Kumar, and thanks, Anisha, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Many thanks, Khatri. That was Mr. Ashwin Kumar Khatri, the head of Mission Energy Foundation, the whole soul, who has brought up this conference on reducing net heat rate for thermal power plants. This 2-day virtual conference will bring in a lot of experts and getting new ideas on how the heat rate can be reduced. We are very privileged to have with us Dr. Ashok Kumar, Deputy Director General, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power. I would request Dr. Kumar to please address the gathering.
Thank you, Ms. Dhawan, and thank you for the invitation. I also seems to not have the access to video, but then I will go with the audio. So first of all, I think the presence of a lot of GenCos here, it is an opportunity for me to be present, and I'm happy to speak on behalf of DGBE here. So I think you have set the context that the heat rate is very important for a power plant, and we would emphasize that as the community or the societies across the world is getting more and more electrified, so the power or the electricity is becoming more of a basic necessity than kind of a luxury that it used to be. So we have several life supports are being supported by this particular form of energy, which becomes so critical. And as you have seen during this pandemic, that how important was the electricity for various contactless operations to happen. So that importance is one aspect of it. And then another aspect is the kind of restrictions that the atmosphere puts us on from the usage of resources that we use for electricity generation. And we are also very aware of the constraints within those limits to grow as a country. As a developing country, I would emphasize that we have a lot more space to cover to provide a decent quality of life to many of our population. So under that, constraints of resource and also limitations put from the space of what is normally called the carbon space. So we have a very challenging task to go ahead. So in that space, power plant is one of the major players, particularly in the the space where emissions are concerned. And as you all are very well know here, we have power plants represented here from NTPC, DVC, state GenCos. So they are very well aware that the government, I think most of them are part of a program under which they are already taking various steps to improve efficiency. And we have several cycles of that is undergoing. And I would just to inform I think the GenCos already know, but to the larger audience, that we have out of around 230 gigawatts of thermal capacity of the country, around 80% of them are under a program to do their mandatorily housekeeping and invest in energy efficiency to meet certain norms to contribute for the cause that is global in nature. You reduce the emission intensity that country has committed to 33 to 35% from the 2005 level. So those are the responsibility, because a lot of emissions come from power plants. So those, and as you know, the demand for electricity is certainly going to grow, not only with the accessibility and affordability, but the growth itself that country requires. And it would be challenge for us to how to improve the efficiency, how to improve the heat rate through various measures that you have already mentioned about, not only into the O&M or auxiliaries or the low-hanging spaces, but also into the deep pockets where we really need to get into a different state of art or the technology itself. So the opportunities need to be explored. So I'm sure the foundation under the head of Mr. Khatri would provide a platform where all players can discuss, and enabling systems that you are providing as an app that can be handy tool for sharing information and possibly to find out some ways to provide certain services that at a centralized place in a different model of service providing regime that we haven't seen so far. So these are certain things that we need to explore. So certainly, power plants are innovating. We have a NTPC case where they have used the waste heat from the heat that is getting released from the stack to utilize for the space conditioning of their own localities and offices, and possibly some cooling services that can also be explored from certain measures. So these are certain things that power plant as a entity can explore and also learn from each other, innovate. And then, of course, there is a technological shift that is also happening, as you may know, that since 2017, I would say, after the 12th plan, the country has taken a stand that all the coal power plants are going to be of supercritical or based on supercritical technology. So these are, there are several steps that are being taken. There are, we see in our own scheme that several of the inefficient and old power plants are getting closed, and they are putting up new ones to supplement those, so in a way that improves the whole heat rate of it. And several other interventions are also, kind of assessment tools that they use, and that is how the efficiency improvement. And just the experience of 10 years from 2012, when this particular program called PAT started, we see that huge improvement in the heat rate, the deviation from the operating parameters, from the design parameters, it has come quite narrow compared to 10 years ago. So there is a lot of efforts is being taken. But certainly we have a lot of more to be done, definitely, particularly in a time when many of the countries of the world in a climate space are talking about climate carbon neutrality and limited carbon space, carbon budget. So all that discourses are coming up. We need to brace up ourselves. We, as a developing country, uh, have our own position, of course, that being there, but certainly we need to work on our own efforts, that our own responsibilities or roles that we are supposed to do. So in that case, I think this uh, meeting of people or brainstorming on a platform that you are providing here would be very useful. So on behalf of BE, I would first of all thank the foundation and the office bearers for organizing. And also the participants who are here have shown interest, and I'm very hopeful that this meeting would be the beginning for the new ways of doing things, connecting things through apps, and possibly that app can also provide certain spaces for analysis, and based on that diagnosis, certain solutions can come from those analysis to the benefit of the members or the registries or the whoever gets registered, or what the modalities. I think I would, since you will see how that really pans out. But certainly this is a good tool that can, I think, will be helpful. So with that, I think I would again reiterate that we are getting into a space on a countries wide that we are now in the forefront of the Committee of Nations, that we must, and we see that. And as you stand in the front of row, so there comes also responsibility to be at that position. So we also need to be responsive. We need to be, and also on the other part is that India is doing its own contribution. As again, many of you might know that we are well on track of our commitments to the Paris Agreement. So we are doing our role as much as possible. But of course, then we also need to see the narrower margins that are getting in the times to come. And we need to brace for those situations. And with that, I think, and power plant being, as you know, in the energy space is a large energy consumer, as well as in the emission space, huge contribution comes from the power plant space. So any small contribution from the power plant sector can have, huge impact. The other sectors are less energy or emission intensive, so their contribution compared to thermal power plant sector is relatively small. So I would urge all the participants, you are putting efforts. We understand, we know that, we are very well, we are one-to-one with many of the GenCos here. So, but we need to push a little more harder in various aspects of it, and that be it technology, be it practices, or be it sharing of each other's experience. And as a whole, we raise the efficiency level of the sector to a newer heights. With that hope and kind of promise that I'll stop here, and I again thank the organizer for your opportunity given to the Bureau, and happy to be representing DGP here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for joining us here. So, since we have the privilege of having you here, I would like to just throw in a small question to you, sir. Could you tell us what role will the thermal power sector play in India's energy mix in the years to come? There is a lot of excitement about renewable energy, but we've seen what's happened in America. where because of the freezing weather, a number of renewable assets are incapacitated, and now there are huge long power cuts. So, I mean, is this a lesson for us as well? We still need the thermal power plants.
Yeah, I would say that, we have a different context. We will not be seeing a parallel to what is happening in other countries. India has its own, you can say, context of fuel mix, of population having access to energy, levels of human development, and various other services that are to be provided. And given that we have a huge, you can say, big fleet of coal-based power plants, and at the same time, as you would see that in the recent times, we are kind of exponentially increasing the share of renewables. And so we would have our own book or our own story,
Right.
which would not have any precedence or any possibility. There is no learning that we can bank on. So we as a country have to chart our own course with the energy mix, and with the, as I was telling, within the narrow space of that constraints that we have. We do not have the luxury of using coal the way the developed world has used in 19th century or the 20th century. We do not have that. And we do not have even the resources to use at the beginning, at the first place. So all that constraints are there. So we would have, a different story altogether. And I think given the mix of present scenario and the policies and practices in country, and as many of the international or the other studies or the reports tell us, that we are way ahead of what many of the, even among the G20 countries or in other countries, even in the developing countries everywhere. So we are doing our share. I think we should be, I think, comfortable with the way we are going, and we would certainly rise to the occasion when it is needed. So we are doing the way we want to do, and all the capacities and the switching and cleaning efficiency measures that we are taking proactively. For the renewables also, certain, the fear or the kind of example that you quoted of US, that I would not like to, kind of link that. So we would have a different situation altogether. We are in a different context altogether. So we will have our own chapter, and with in that chapter, I think how that beautifully can be done, the organizations like yours should contribute in maneuvering or informing or educating not only the masses but even at the policy level as well.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar, for joining us today and sharing with us the roadmap that the government has for India's energy sector. Like Dr. Kumar said, the world is looking at India because we have seen a lot of reforms in the energy sector, and it is growing at a very fast pace. And there is still a large unmet need that the energy sector has to fulfill in our country. The thermal power plants will play an important role, and they have to be efficient to do that. Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar, for joining us and addressing this session. We will take a very short break, and we will return in just a few minutes to start with an interesting panel discussion which you don't want to miss. So stay with us. We'll be back in a bit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.